am I a bad Catholic because I don't wear a scapular? Will I go straight to heaven if I die wearing a scapular? Can I ever take the scapular off? Does the scapular have to be made of brown cloth? Hi, I'm Father Michael Joseph Paris, and I am a Discalced Carmelite friar of the Immaculate Heart of Mary province. First, I guess you could say, well, what is the brown scapular? Originally, the word scapular comes from the word for shoulders, and it's basically this cloth that I'm wearing right here. It's kind of like an apron that goes over your shoulders, and it was meant originally to protect the Carmelite habit, from dirt and different things when you're working, which is no small task actually. If you go way back in the year 1251, one of the early Carmelites, St. Simon Stock, was in a really rough spot. He was the superior general, and he saw that the order was in danger of being suppressed. But before we get into all of that, you could subscribe to this channel, and it helps us reach you with good, authentic Catholic content. So please subscribe. And so St. Simon Stock, agonizing one night over the future of the Carmelite order, was praying to the Virgin Mary, for whom the order was founded, and asked for some kind of sign, some kind of protection. And the tradition is that Mary brought him the brown scapular and said, whoever dies wearing this scapular will be saved, will never suffer eternal fire. After this event, so many things seemed to change course for the Carmelites. Popes were approving the Carmelites, giving them blessings, all kinds of privileges for joining the Carmelites. Vocations started to boom in Europe. Houses were founded. The tide turned and Carmel flourished. It was a real sign of what Our Lady was doing in that promise and what she promised that she would continue to do. And over time, people wanted to share in this grace, this special grace of Our Lady. And so they would ask the Carmelites to share in some way, to be able to be part of the scapular. And so the story is that the Carmelites would actually take their scapular, their big scapular, and cut off little pieces and give it to the people so that they too could share in the promise of Our Lady and really share in the Carmelite way of life and spirituality. So after a while, the Carmelite scapular got kind of messed up. I mean, if you keep cutting squares out of it, it's not going to look good. What became of this big scapular for most people is this. How do you wear a scapular? And it's very simple. As you can see, it's connected like this. The word means for shoulders, so you kind of just put it on over your head, wear it over your shoulders, and most people wear it under their clothing, and that's a great way to do it. So as people wore this, it reminded them really of who Mary is in their life, because this promise of Our Lady through the brown scapular is not just tied to this one event, that tradition says happened in 1251. This really confirms the intuition of Catholic Christians throughout the ages that Mary comes through when you need her the most. That the salvation of Christ won on the cross, that Mary distributes that to us in the moment where we feel like things are at their worst sometimes, or at the end of our rope, or it just seems like there's no other way out. And if you look at history too, you can see certain events that play this out. I was in Spain for a few years, and there was a holy old Carmelite friar that I met who in the 1960s, he woke one night to the alarms going off in the nearby town, and he got up, and with the other brothers who woke up, they saw that the alarm was for them because there was a fire coming so close to the monastery that it looked like they might not even get out in time. And so this holy old friar, he ran out towards the fire and threw his scapular into the fire. And when he did that, the fire turned back incredibly, and the monastery was saved. No one lost their life, no property was damaged, and in fact, a couple months later, they found the scapular intact, still under some bushes that was thrown into the fire. So these are these moments where we can see in a physical way how Our Lady comes through for us in our spiritual life and just in our everyday life. All right, so to get back to your questions, more practical questions about the scapular, the question comes up, do I have to wear it all the time? Yes, we wear it day and night. I mean, you wear the scapular, it's meant to be worn. But of course, there's certain moments where you don't have to wear it. And whenever it's reasonable to take off the scapular, you can take it off. Mary's not calculating like when to bestow her protection. She knows the wearers of the scapular, and she will make sure that that you have everything you need. You don't have to be anxious about the scapular, I guess is what I want to convey. One other question that comes up sometimes is, does the scapular have to be wool? And the short answer is no, it doesn't have to be wool. It's usually some kind of dark cloth, or again, it can be a metal, replacing that dark cloth. So no worries if it's not wool. So there's something much deeper than just this piece of cloth. It's a real trust in Our Lady, that she is our mother, that she will not let us be lost. I remember when I was about to be ordained a priest. For whatever reason, it was just a few hours before the ordination, all this darkness came over me. A lot of confusion, a lot of anxiety, all these doubts started creeping in. I was like, what is going on? I didn't know what to do. And I glanced upwards and I just caught the eye of this statue of Our Lady, a small statue in the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. And her gentle look and just her presence there came alive to me. And all of my fears, all of my anxieties were dissipated, were calmed. And I entered my ordination with an indescribable joy and peace. And then I can relate that to Our Lady. And that is what the scapular signifies. In those moments of confusion, of darkness, here she comes, giving you some light. And maybe she doesn't take away all the darkness, but it's like the light of the moon. It gives just enough light to take the next steps, to keep going forward, to never be taken up by the darkness. And then the question comes, do I have to be enrolled in the scapular? Because there is a certain kind of ritual to entering into the scapular promise, because it really connects you also to the Carmelite order. And so I definitely encourage people to enroll in the scapular. But even if you're not ready to be enrolled, let's say, you can still wear a blessed scapular, and you still can get blessings and graces through wearing the scapular, even if you're not officially enrolled. We don't see the scapular as magic or as a charm in any way. It's a sacramental, and we know that sacramentals are tangible things that are used by God to dispose us to grace, to really prepare us for Him pouring His grace into our life, especially through the sacraments. So sacramentals and sacraments are connected, but that's what the scapular is. You know, it prepares us and opens us through wearing it with faith and devotion to what God wants to give us through Our Lady's hands. And you can see this even in the scriptures with St. Paul in the Acts of the Apostles, when they took a piece of his handkerchief and brought it to people, and people who touched it said were healed. So it opened them up to receive the healing graces of God. And that's where we get, our devotion to the sacramentals, of which the scapular is a very important one. It represents a kind of silent prayer, a real just trustful surrender, like a child in the arms of her mother. And so wearing the scapular is, essentially a trust that God will always come through for you through Our Lady's intercession, and that nothing can separate you from the love of God, and that Mary brings that and shows us that in such a unique way. Wear the scapular, appreciate the scapular, realize what it means, what it signifies, and let it help you kind of have that attitude that we all need of just trustful surrender, like a little child. I hope this made sense and that it clarified some things for you.